So one guy that we got to see a lot more of on the Falcons defense on Sunday was Arnold Ebiketie, who's really starting to make a name for himself and starting to get some good production. Now, if you look at Ebiketie's numbers as far as his snap percentage over the course of the season, we know Ogundeji has been the starter. Game 1, he got 43% of the snaps. Game 2, 52%. Went up to 61% in Game 3. But then it came back down to 42% in Game 4. But a couple of weeks ago against Tampa, 51%. Then with the Ogundeji injury, 82%. Now, I think they're treating Ebiketie the way that they like to treat rookies on this team, right? We don't throw him in. We don't rush him in. We don't get ahead of ourselves. We don't put him in bad scenarios and things like that. It's the Richie Grant thing, right? They did this with Richie Grant last year. They didn't really start him. They played him a little bit here. Even Troy Anderson, they worked him in early on, special teams, a little bit of defense, and they just work him in over time. Well, that's Ebiketie. And because of Ogundeji's injury last week, he played 82% of the snaps. Can I tell you, let's see more of him on the field. Now, I know just the raw stats are not huge. He has 1 tackle for loss and he has 1 quarterback sack on the year. But if you look among all rookies in the NFL, he's got the 3rd most pressures with 13 this year. He has the 3rd most quarterback hits this year. Only Grady and Taquan Graham have hit the quarterback more times. And Ebiketie has the most knockdowns of a quarterback this season for the Falcons. So there are some things in the metrics and things like that that tell you that Ebiketie is starting to figure some things out. And I understand the Falcons' philosophy about their rookies, right? Don't play them too much too early. Don't push them into situations. Dean Pease talked a lot about this last year, especially when it came to Richie Grant, because people are like, you drafted this guy in the 2nd round. Can we see him? Obviously, Ebiketie's a 2nd round pick as well. People are like, I thought 2nd round players are supposed to start and play for your team. Yes, in theory, that's true. But they don't want to put those guys into bad situations. They want to see those guys develop in other areas. And while I understand, look, teaching him to set the edge, can he help in the run game? Can he drop into coverage if need be? Okay, I get that he's got to learn all those kinds of things, and that's all great. But can I tell you that you need this young pup to line up and go get the quarterback? And we talked about yesterday the fact that the one thing the Falcons need to get back to doing is tackling the quarterback with the ball in his hands. And over the last 3 weeks, there hasn't been a whole lot of that. And that number is starting to trend in the wrong direction. Doesn't mean that, I'm scared or panicked yet about it, but that number is trending the wrong way. If the young pup can line up on the outside and he can get to the quarterback and he can knock him around, knock him down, and even better, do what we always talk about on this show. The one thing we talk a lot about on the show is why it's so important to sack the quarterback is to change down and distance in the NFL. That's where you get teams off of their game, is when you change down and distance against them. And Ebiketie right now feels like, of the guys we have on this roster, it's Ebiketie and Grady are the 2 guys that you feel like that if I need a sack, that's the guys I'm going to go to. So while I understand that the raw numbers of Ebiketie aren't outstanding, they're not eye-popping, it's not Micah Parsons. He's coming out and gotten 5 or 6 sacks in his first handful of games. But if you look at some of the underlying advanced numbers, analytics, sabermetric, metrosexual statistics, and all that kind of thing that people love to dig into, Pro Football Focus grades and stuff like that, and ratings and all that, things are starting to trend in the right direction. Does that mean that he's going to start right away when Ogundeji's back and healthy and ready to go? Probably not. Troy Anderson started because Michael Walker was out, right? But they wanted to work Troy Anderson in, start him on special teams, work him into some plays and things like that. You know how you keep yourself on the field in the NFL? You make plays when you're out there. And I understand the injury last week dictated 82% of the snaps, but the good news is that this has been a trend over the last 3 weeks. Let's hope that that trend doesn't change on Sunday, because remember, we just said in his first 3 games, he was trending upward. And then in week 4, it came back. But week 4 to week 5 to week 6, it's trended upward. Let's hope that he continues to stay on the field, because the production that you're getting, and you see the signs out of this guy, you see why they took him in the second round. You see his pass rush ability. It's not just all raw ability to just go get the quarterback. He's learning some things. When you watch some of the All 22, you're seeing him learning some things, becoming a better football player. Yeah, there are things he'll have to work on. I get that. And that's one of the big things that the coaches are always talking about. It's one of the big things Dean Pease is always talking about, is not getting on the field and sort of looking or feeling like you're lost out there. But there is something different when it comes to guys who can sack the quarterback. Can I tell you that if you have the raw natural ability to sack the quarterback, that's how you become massively wealthy in the NFL. Here's two ways you become massively wealthy in the NFL. Be a first team all NFL quarterback, and be a guy that can get you double-digit sacks multiple years in a row. Those two players will make themselves an infinite amount of money. So I'm loving what I'm seeing out of Ebiketie early on. I want to see that trend continue. You know, if Ogundeji's back and he starts, the snap percentage will probably come down a little bit. But you'd like to see him at least get back in that 2/3 of your plays on defense. And I don't think it's coincidence that the defense played so well last week, mixing in a lot more of Troy Anderson and Arnold Ebiketie. Those guys were high draft picks. You're supposed to get production out of them early on. It's not supposed to be in 5 years they finally start to produce. You expect those guys to come in. And I thought in a game where they played their best defensive football of the year, I think that was their best defensive performance. I don't think it's coincidence that Anderson and Ebiketie got a lot of the snaps out there, because we've seen a lot of the other guys. We know what Evans and Grant and Hawkins and those guys can do, right? Grady, Taquan, we've seen those guys. But I think infusing Anderson and Ebiketie more into this defense is a good thing. And hopefully, as we move along through the season, believe it or not, we're only, a couple weeks away from pretty much being at the halfway point of the season. You want to see those guys. Remember when Dean Pease last year talked about how they were, only 25, 30% of the playbook, and they had to continue to develop and open it and all that kind of stuff? Let's hope that those guys' snap percentage, especially Ebiketie, he gets on the field more. Let's hope that we get to see him more and let him do what he does naturally well. Go after the quarterback and go get it. All right, well, thank you so much for making Hittin' Hard with Jon Chuckery your first listen every day. We want you to make our NFL key predictions on Fridays on Locked On NFL your second listen every day. Listen, Locked On's local experts give you the inside scoop on the 5 biggest games of the NFL weekend, including the Sunday and Monday night games. Plus, you get betting advice from the field's betting experts from BetOnline. Follow NFL key predictions every Friday on Locked On NFL. It's available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast from. Check us out for free on our YouTube page at Locked On Sports Atlanta. Subscribe and leave us a comment there. Free and available on all of your favorite podcast platforms, including Spotify and Odyssey. Check us out. 5-star review us there. Amazon Fire and Roku. We are on those platforms now, so be sure to check us out there as well. And follow me at JMCH316. We'll be back with a Hump Day edition as, believe it or not, Hawks basketball opens the season coming up tomorrow night. Back with you tomorrow, Hitting Hard with Jon Chuckery, Locked On Sports Atlanta.